Robo AI, Forge, those are the future. And so we need to know how to do more development, right? We need to know how to do more scripting. We need to know how to work with APIs more. We need to learn how to dive into the technical side of automations for Jira even deeper.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Summer of Atlassian 4.0. Today I got Aaron, whose last name I'm not going to try to pronounce. Thank you so much for being here.
What's up?
So I titled it Atlassian Legends, mainly because I really do want to maybe noodle a little bit more on this idea that we have of creating a council of administrators that kind of just help each other out. But before we get into that, I wanted to just maybe get some life updates. Your hoodie looks a little different than it did last time I saw you.
Yeah, Trundle.
So what's the story here, buddy? What are we doing?
Well, I went from one partner to another, and went from one service partner to another service partner, and I just looking to grow. Like we always have to grow, and I felt like I wasn't going to grow at the last one, but the team was great. I do miss all of them dearly. I think sometimes organizations make a shift, and the leaders, even though they're thought leaders, even though they're good leaders, like they can't see how it's going to affect everybody.
Right.
And so it happens, so we all make decisions based on the decisions that come down, and we're like, what do you want to do? Is this what you want to do? Is that what you want to do? Like,
is this what you want to do? Such a existential crisis question for me because like times are tough right now. I think in the Atlassian ecosystem right now, I hear a lot of chatter of folks like things are drying up on the migration side, right? I think things that you and I have discussed in the past, where I think at this point, if you made it to the cloud, you're at the cloud, and if you haven't, you're not coming to the cloud anytime soon.
Right. Well, there's five. What did they say? They at Cloud Equip, they were really open, honest. There's 5 million DC seats left. That's it.
Yeah.
So
so that work is kind of coming to an end, and I hear from a variety of different solution partners where they're like, we're kind of in this weird state where I don't know, the state of Jira Admins is kind of weird. And then maybe what we can drill down to is there's a lot of fear over this. Robo is just going to take away the Jira Admin jobs. So
yeah, they haven't even exposed that yet to do that. So,
but I see a future where like these workflows, custom fields, all that stuff, like it's got to be automated at some point. Like, and Atlassian's investing heavier and heavier into these team managed projects. I don't think they're anywhere near where they need to be for teams to be successful with them, but they keep investing.
I have this theory, and the theory is that company manage will go away. We will end up with a product that's similar to Monday and Asana, where there's not a lot of admin overhead to build what we need. JPD is a very good use case for that, right? I love JPD, and I'm like, how can I love this product if I'm anti-team, right? Right? And so that's where the use case is like, well, team projects do have a place. And if they can find the middle ground between company manage and team manage and make it so that we can still put security gates around specific things, but we can still keep it open enough, I think like that's what they want to do. That's what's going to come, right?
Yeah. And I think that the Jira admins so what I've been telling people is like, yeah, maybe the traditional Jira admin title is going to change, because even from data center to cloud, you no longer need to know how to start and stop services. You no longer need to know how to drop tables and all that good stuff, because we don't need that Postgres background. You don't need that system admin background to be a good Jira admin.
If on an enterprise, you still need SQL if you're
a little bit, but even on the enterprise, it's very rare. Like the most technical thing I ever had to do on the enterprise cloud was like all the Okta stuff.
Yeah, it depends on your IDP. I come from IDP background, so like
all the IDP stuff. Generalize it. All the IDP stuff was probably the most technical thing I had to do managing Jira Cloud.
When you get into that, that's like my happy ground, because I came from like IT, like real like scripting background and all of the MDM and stuff, and I love it. And that's why I really hold on to IDP, because I think that's like a really great place. And I think there's a lot of solution partners that like don't have a handle on that. Like they know how to hook up Guard to Entra, but what about all these other IDPs? What about all these other things?
Right.
And so I think Jira admins are going to have to know that stuff, the security packages, the different layers of Guard, premium versus standard. Like they're going to have to know how to configure those things. And I don't think the technical things, I think they're going to get more technical. And here's why. Robo AI, Forge, those are the future. And so we need to know how to do more development, right? We need to know how to do more scripting. We need to know how to work with APIs more. We need to learn how to dive into the technical side of automations for Jira even deeper. And so I think like we're going to become a bridge between like the administrators now and the developer, and we're gonna merge into one, because who's going to take care of all the back end of the AI stuff and all of these technical things that are going to happen? It's going to be us. And also I think on the foreground, there's going to be less day-to-day admin things to configure, but I think we're going to have to be more architects and more strategic and actually show people how do we display our data across Atlassian? How do we functionally make it, like architecturally make it work, right? So AI is the most beneficial.
And I've been seeing somebody's like on a new beta for like dashboards. That dashboards are finally getting a revamp. And when I saw Atlassian's Robo agent, like what it could do, there was definitely a section of like metrics and reporting. And I'm assuming they're going to be tapping into that data lake a little bit more. And so I can see that becoming a big, huge part of an admin's job, right? Maybe not even just Jira admin, maybe just an Atlassian admin at this point, because you need to be able to. All these folks are going to be using Jira, but Jira is completely useless. The tool is useless until you get meaningful data out of it. But you can only do that with some sort of a metric or report, and being able to translate those requirements from a customer, from an executive, from a CEO, right, into a Jira thing that works for the team. Like that's going to be, I think, a good part of the future as well.
Yeah. So I did get some background about that, what you just said about analytics. So I think like I heard the analytics team say something about bringing the data lake and analytics in a different portion to premium, and also like some of the dashboarding and stuff. So like today, if we're using JSM Ops, right? Opsgenie is now part of JSM. It's all intertwined. All of those reports are actually analytic reports, right? So we're already starting to see like analytics is flowing into the more base level Jira premium, whatnot. So I think that's going to continue to happen. Especially with,
I think it needs to happen. You've seen it in the summary view too, right? That summary view is like a chef's kiss. If you can customize it a little bit more, I give you double chef's kiss. But
right. I
that
love
summary view. I show it to my clients, and they're like, "This is awesome! Like we can work with this."
They need
which is not something I've ever heard from a Jira dashboard.
Right. In fact, I honestly like Jira dashboards could if they bring it into the project level, and they're using analytics in a different interface or at the home section. Like, do we need Jira dashboards anymore? If we can manipulate data, do we need it?
Maybe like a dashboard hub or an analytics hub, right? Because right now, though, at least the last time I tried to use data analytics or the Jira analytics or Atlassian analytics, whatever they call it.
Atlassian analytics. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Atlassian analytics. I felt like you need like 10 PhDs just to operate that thing.
So
it was tricky.
At Cloud equipped at the partner level, and we did a learn analytics session. And I have been using analytics since EAP. So I've been playing with it and learning it because I kind of like, on a side note, I like analytics and I like digging how to make it work. But I'm not like I'm not like that. Hey, Aaron, like you're our analytic go-to guy. No, because I've been doing custom charts for Jira for so long. It's like, let's make it easy and simple to do, right? And like when you get into analytics, it's a lot more. But I think like learning, like I like to know how the product works. Like that's my thing. It's like I want to know the little intricate things about it. I don't necessarily want to be the guy that has to do it every day. I just want to know about it. So I dive into that. And I think like taking that session and then all of my like one-on-one or focus times with myself to like dive into it, analytics is pretty cool. But you're right. Like I don't want to have a PhD to make it work. But I think that's where analytics teams come into Jira and become successful for you, because they know how those tables and how those things should work. And if they have an idea how Atlassian works and admin works, like they can start to show you things. And one of the examples there is you can see where like there's like some big misses in Atlassian in Jira itself, right? Like here's a good one. How do you table or know if a project is a team managed project or a company managed project?
Right now, in the old UI and the new UI, because they butchered it up in the new UI.
Either way, it doesn't matter.
Well, the old one, you just go to that bottom left corner.
Right. Or you go into all projects and you can view
And
it.
you see it there, yeah, in the
But
drop
there's
down.
no way in analytics to pull that data from analytics. So what analytics shows you is like there's some misses within the system of what it can read and what's available to read. So you kind of learn some more about the Atlassian system, right?
Yeah.
Altogether. And so what we had to do for a client one time was like, we had to go through and label with categories, whether it was team or company, to pull that data into analytics because somebody wanted to see what the
Yeah.
some manager somewhere wanted to know.
And that brings up 2 points that I'd like to maybe pivot into, right? One is I grew up with Jira Server, and I never personally did this, but I was told that Atlassian gave you access to like even recode the UI. Like if you wanted to brand it yourself, like you could rebrand Jira Server back in the day, right? And
Mhm.
it is always just blew my mind a little bit as to like why did Atlassian, when they moved to the cloud, take away so much of the power that the APIs had?
That's a good question. And the only thing I can think is security.
I mean, but really, like you still have to worry about the data center being secure.
Right. Right. But here's the thing, like when it's in your own playground, you have a lot more control of security. So
Okay.
having more open, robust API, you're only hitting your own.
Right.
You're
So
only
then
hitting-
that kind of takes us to point number 2 then, right? With isolated cloud, with Gov Cloud, with Rovo being as powerful as they claim for it to be, do you see Atlassian then opening it up more, opening up the APIs more? Because what if you could add that variable into Jira so that you could then pull out the project type?
So on top of that, I think like the question is with the push from Connect to Forge, do they have to open it up more so that we can hit more and do more? Because if Forge is the way, if Rovo is the way, we have to be able to have an endpoint to hit to do something, right?
Right,
So
but that means more endpoints are going to be needed.
I think that answers your point. Like I think like a year, 2 years down the line, we're going to see a big jump in what APIs are going to be available and how they're going to be available. And there's going to be more secure features behind that, right? Like the security behind the API itself. And also like you're like with the secure cloud, private cloud, like if they really want to do good stuff, like intricate stuff within there, wouldn't they have to? Like, or it's going to be segregated to the point where like you can just use the base tools there.
Yeah.
It's going to go one or two ways, right? It's either going to be really super isolated, or they're going to be able to do and manipulate because they're going to have more endpoints to manipulate to connect and interweave
But
their.
I think that they have to go with the latter route because at least the way they're advertising Rovo, it's going to be like the savior for everything. Like it can do they haven't said one thing that Rovo can't do.
So I've been testing that today, and I'm having a really hard time today grabbing data from Teams channels and relating it to Confluence and all of that. And I'm like, where am I going?
Wait, so does that become the Jira admin job then?
Yes, it does. How do we make sure that those connections and Rovos actually hitting it
Work?
going to be
Do
going
you
to be
think companies are going to want to connect though externally to like other tools? And then how do you feel that other companies are going to be receptive to Atlassian tapping into their data? Because I asked Mike, and Mike was like, "Well, in some cases, we do better search than the native search."
right, right. And the other thing I think about that is like, yes, they want to because at the end of the day, we want an ecosystem. Like every system, they want an ecosystem where it works for the client, right? Microsoft wants it to work for us. Google wants it to work for us. Apple wants it to work for us. Atlassian wants it to work for us. And if they don't start interconnecting and being able to live across multiple platforms simplistically and natively, like something else will come about that will replace that. You know what I'm saying? That will do that. So they have to work together. They have to partner. Did you see the Claude thing that came out?
Hmm.
Uh, they announced that you can use an MCP
Oh yeah,
server.
yeah, I did see that. Yeah, I wasn't sure what it was. I'm not that technical.
So it's kind of I think like private way to like connect Claude to like introduce Claude to your environment and just be able to grab all of the data and again interweave it. So it's like teamwork graph
Meets.
up by Claude, right?
Yeah.
Like that's Claude saying, I see all this stuff and I'm going to tell you about it now. So you're using that server as like a middleware or a middleman to like be able to reach your data. And if you use Claude, you don't need intelligence anymore. You could use Claude working with Robo to like dish it all out, right?
I mean, just fix the whole problem, right? Just describe a problem and have Rovo and Claude and everybody else that's going to be integrating just build these systems for you.
Last time I talked to Atlassian team, I think like they were telling me like there's like 30 plus different AI tools being utilized to like make teamwork graph and the whole intelligence work. So it's not one thing, it's like multiple things. And I think that's beautiful because that like tells you like no one system's going to be able to dominate the AI industry.
And that's something I forgot who I was talking to, right? But there's standards like an IEEE for USB for hardware, right? And I'm kind of curious if the world is thinking of a standard for how AP or AI should talk to each other, right? Like a standard communication protocol that AI to AI models can collaborate.
I think API, right? Like that's going to be the standard how it communicates. But like, I think you're talking like more security level, maybe. Right?
Well, yeah, because so MuleSoft or there's a couple of like companies out there that dedicate themselves for API level security, right? Because natively and just an API, kind of like TCP/IP, they didn't really think it was going to be exposed or vulnerable the way you take advantage in years later, right? And so if you're just relying on that, there's got to be some extra protection around getting these tools to talk to each other. Because what happens when OpenAI, when they're just like, well, we want to make our own platform that doesn't talk to anybody and it's closed AI? What happens if a company wants to close AI because they don't want an open AI?
Well, they do that already. That's already happening. Like people are building their own in-house AI with development teams because they don't want to be on public SaaS produced AI, right? Like that, like they don't want to work with ChatGPT. They don't want to work with Gemini. They don't.
No, I get so, but they're locking off. But then internally, though, they're still depending on the same protocols to build an AI.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, what happens when somebody starts forking from that spot and creates like a new language or a new method that then 20 years from now we've had these diversions, so many branches that later 20 years from now we're like, because it's cyclical, right? You see this in companies all the time. You have a center of excellence and you break it up into multiple groups and then you bring it back together and then you break it all up, right? So I can predict 20, 30 years from now, right now we're all like let's integrate GitHub with GitLab and Bitbucket and Jira and let's bring them all together. And at one point somebody's going to be like, no, let's break them all apart. Right. And then 20 years from now, we're going to be like, let's bring them all together.
I think if you talk about protocols and standards, like what you're going to see is that's going to come from the EU first, right? Because their standards are way higher than America. Like,
yeah,
down. like they like if they're coming out with something like anything that's like security and compliance related, it's going to come from there, and then it's going to kind of come over this way. And so I think they're working on it now. Last I read, like they're working.
But now there's got to be a balance, right? Because what happens when they are become too restrictive, right? What happens if they create protocols that don't want specific data to be exposed or whatever? Then what do you do?
Well, look at different companies like Anthropic was all came from like OpenAI, and they kind of didn't agree on things and they split, and now they got two different great AI tools, and one is very security conscious where the other one's very open, like wanting to keep it open. That's why it's OpenAI, right? Like they want to expose it to the world and people use it. And
yeah, and we see that with Grok too, right? Like Elon's like, I'm gonna make my own AI that does free speech.
right. And then there's like, what is that? Perplexity came out now too.
Yeah.
Perplexity, yeah. So I think like they all tell their own story, just like all the system work tools, just like all the work management tools there's like hundreds, right? And just like all the HRIS systems, like they all speak to their own audience and do their own thing, and AI is doing the same thing. And I think like that's kind of the beauty, is like you have to find where you fit. Like obviously we're in the Atlassian
yeah, but it's the beauty, but it's also the curse too, though, right? Because no company that I've ever worked at, like yesterday we were on the Jira Life, we were talking with the Trello product manager, marketing manager, and I wasn't on screen, but the question I wanted to yell and like ask was like, why would you put Trello in the same team that has Jira? Right? Like companies don't want 50 tools that do similar work. They want one tool.
Yeah. Like,
So
why are we not
companies are not going to want 50 AIs. They're
right?
going to want one.
Why are we not just using work management, and why are we using Trello? Like, where's the balance of that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I've never met a company that's like, yeah, we want to use 1,000 tools. Like, no, they literally want centralized on one tool, one process, one language. So I see the shift or the trend going in the opposite direction of what the consumer wants. But who am I? I'm not. I'm not also.
No,
I don't run a Fortune 500 company.
I think that like that diversity encapsulates different types of teams. Like Atlassian admins aren't necessarily like out there trying to be like Monday admins or Salesforce admin. Like there's a differentiator between all of us, and some of
Yeah.
us do more. Like some of us are diversified, but like where's the focus if you're too diversified, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. So a lot of companies, like one of my last teams that I was at, like they were ditching 2 or 3 project management tools in lieu of just one, and they bought a lot more licenses, so you get volume discount, right? There's again standardization of tools and processes. So I don't envision a world where we want more of diverse tools.
I agree. I agree that we want more areas of focus, I guess, so that we're all speaking the same language and just doing the same work and seeing the same things and getting rid of all the silos, like, you know. And I think like that's why I said the other day, I don't know if you remember me saying, but I was like, what about like just no UI and you're just inputting data and then data's getting outputted and there's
See,
no
and then we're back to the cyclical thing, right? We're back to the 70s with just the command prompt.
well, yeah, but like what if it's like a pretty command prompt where there is like it will produce an AI that this visual to you, like you understand that and knows like
Yeah.
that's the I think where we're heading is like do we is the UX and UI going to be a thing or is it going to be the output that you get from it?
I think it's got to be. I think UX and UI. I think the UI will go away, and the UX will have to be doubled down to voice because at some point, I don't see people typing into their devices. Like you got to be able to talk to it.
I think so. I think that's like, 50 years from now, we might not be sitting on a MacBook anymore, right?
Yeah, because it's got to be like I think the model citizen, in my opinion, is Jarvis. Can you imagine with Tony Stark's right there? Like, hold up, let me let me just
Oh
pull
yeah,
out my little portable keyboard. Bomb
yeah,
stop. Let
yeah.
me.
Or the whole like 3D visuals and like spinning it around.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the future, definitely. And the UI does the UX and UI become a different type of I don't even know what you call that then, right? Like what Tony Stark built. I don't know what that's called, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah. But then it kind of gets me thinking. So on the with that like mindset of Tony or of Star or of Jarvis, then does it matter we have 1,000 competing tools because the AI will be so powerful that it feels like it's one? Because you have one input for a million different tentacles?
So I want to ask I wanted to ask at Teams, I was like, I want to stop Mike and be like, is that the idea? Teamwork graph is like Jarvis, like everything is piped into this one platform that just kind of knows all of these different things and works with all these different tools and then gives you your output. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what I feel they're
I
trying.
kind of asked him a similar question, but I don't think I got a straight answer from him because I was basically alluding to the fact of like, okay, what Atlassian is doing with Teamwork Graph is a differentiator in the industry. And I feel like I think companies are going to be in one of two spots, right? They're either going to be 100% on board or they're going to be 100% off board. Because they're either not going to want, like, when you bring up EU, right? Like, I can already see Teamwork Graph being a clear violation of EU policies.
Yes.
Because to have Teamwork Graph to work well, you need to be exposed. I mean,
Yes.
that's what it comes down to, right? The data needs to be visible. Because
Well,
if it's hidden, how does the Teamwork Graph see it?
it's segregated. So think about this, like at the site level. We'll go site
Segregated but visible still. Somebody's got to, your AI's got to see it.
right. But if you think about it, like So the way it was explained and the way that I visualize it is like you have your site level. So everything sits inside that site, and then that site sits in an org, right? And that org could have multiple sites. But let's just go to the site level. Intelligence is really just sitting in that site level. So it's just the data read across there. And if you're connecting these third-party tools like SharePoint, OneDrive, it's pulling data into there, right? It's calling the API to pull the data into there that it can visualize, but it's still just staying in there. Like it's still segregated to that site. There's still that big wall, or that big gate, that electrified gate that like it can't get back out. So it's just calling data in to like produce that data to you that you already have access to.
Yeah, no, I get that part, right? But now the problem now becomes, what happens when I want to go get the data from GitHub? Because now I need to go out and bring it in.
So it's making that call out and it's bringing that data in.
Yeah,
And it's
but that's what I'm saying. But that's the access, that's the exposure, right? Because GitHub needs to expose their thing so that Robo can go grab it.
But that's already happening with all of the data connectors anyway, right? Even if it's not AI.
Today, bro, that's why, again, where we're going back to, like, if EU has policies and rules and compliances, is that a feature that they're going to allow?
I think so.
For that to happen, your data needs to be exposed.
No, an API needs to be exposed. The data is not exposed until the API is hit and actually.
Yeah, but the APIs are going to be great until everybody catches on and they're like, now they start attacking APIs.
I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here.
Because what was it like? Blue hacking. What do they call it when you hack Bluetooth spots, Bluetooth connections on your phone? NFC hacking, right? Like there's like all these newer terms that 10 years ago didn't exist.
Yeah, I think the
right?
level,
Wi-Fi was a great idea until pineapples came along.
Yeah, I think
somebody's gonna find a way to intercept that API and do a rogue API call to take something else. Or do something
that's always happening. Your data's out there.
So again, governments are going to get involved and they're going to cut that off.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they'll come up with a new protocol that's more secure, and
which is why, again, we're going back to, do you envision some sort of a protocol that's going to have to be but like at the IEEE standard, right, where it's like a collection of like United Nations level, like all countries in the world agree to this is how we do AI for good.
Yes, I think that is always evolving. Like looking at compliance when I started and where today, like you have all these different, you have NIST and CMMC and you have FedRAMP and you have HIPAA and you have all these things. But at the end of the day, what are they? They're all speaking the same language. If you look at each compliance, they're all asking the same things. So the protocols that go with that, whether it's flight, or whether it's network or whether it's system, like they all have to speak the same language.
Yeah. You know what, something else that I was also thinking about today along those lines, because I come from the defense world, right? And I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm like just thinking to myself, in these closed areas, like AI just simply doesn't, like, you have to inbred something in house, right? I mean, it's kind of silly that our governments take this approach of like, we're gonna shut things down, isolate, right, segregate to protect, but the bad actor, they're leveraging all the power of openness to figure out the ways in, right? Because the human can only think so much to protect an information system. But when you have AI attacking an information system, the possibilities are endless. Like you already see with Metasploit, even think about Metasploit before AI. Imagine you add AI to Metasploit, like find me every vulnerability to attack this one system.
I think they're already,
if it doesn't exist.
they're already doing that. I was watching something on White Hat recently, and they were like testing AI to attack Black Hat, right? Like they're testing these like White Hat versus Black Hat, like AI versus AI, and they were using like Perplexity, Gemini, and two like ones that I don't know, and they were using these different AIs to like attack AI in a White Hat Black Hat situation. They were setting these like few up to be the bad guys, and then these guys were supposed to be defending, and you could see them like going at each other, and they were showing it in like a graph where like this one was like shooting this one kind of thing, and what they were doing is like they were like sending a network traffic, and then this one was like trying to intercept, right? So it looked like bombs going off everywhere, but it was really cool to see them play against each other and which AI model had a better attack or defense mechanism against that. And it's like, whoa, like how do humans even stop that if it becomes
Yeah,
bigger?
I feel like there's gonna be a point where like that thread is gonna be pulled or yanked. Like you're just not gonna be able to stop it. Like you just have to let it go.
Yeah, like you're watching that in real time. It was so cool. It was like it's almost like watching a video game when you're younger and like two CPUs like fighting each other in Street Fighter or something like that, right? And you're just seeing how they like react against each other.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
then you see articles like, did you hear what happened in San Francisco with the Waymos on the rooftop?
Mm-mm.
They all just started honking at each other.
Oh, really?
Then you remember that computers are still so dumb
Yeah.
and that they still only know how to follow the next instruction in the
I,
data set.
I was in Austin and I was trying to wave one down. I didn't know you had to have an app because I was like, I've never done it and I've never saw it because like they don't have them up here in the Midwest. And I'm like, well, it takes like 3 hours to get anywhere up here anyway. But like, I'm like trying to wave one down, and it's like it didn't even wave back. And then like
We,
I'm like asking somebody, and they're like, "No, you gotta have the app, and it'll stop and pick you up." And I'm like, "Oh,
yeah. We're in San Francisco 2 nights ago with Fun Man Andy. And Andy, I mean, he doesn't live. I would not feel comfortable driving in the streets of San Francisco. So we're in his car. He's driving in a foreign country, and our lane came to a halt, and he had to like cut somebody off. And luckily, it was a Waymo. I'm like, dude, just cut it off. It can't. It's not gonna honk at you, and it's not gonna crash into you. So cut it off. So if you're gonna be cutting anybody off, it's got to be the Waymo because the Waymo's got to play it safe, right? The Waymo was never gonna try to crash into you.
right." We were talking about that when I lived in Boston. We're like, Boston's got like the worst roads because they're like really, really old and they're like a million different intersections, and it's just like the infrastructure is so old, and it's just like they're tight or narrow roads, and just it's just really crazy because traffic is like 10 times worse than anywhere, and it's such like a small area, right? um well, I mean, probably not as bad as LA, but it's close. And we're like, what if they just AI'd everything and just everybody had like a automated car that got them to work? Like traffic would just move, right? Because
Right.
it's
Oh, because that's, I mean, the domino effect is the moment one person cuts another car off, and it's that chain reaction
right.
of the traffic.
And it's like 2 hours. I used to drive
Yeah,
from
2 hours to recycle it back.
I used to drive 26 miles, just 26 miles. Like here in the Midwest, 26 miles is like 12 minutes.
26 minutes.
Not even 26, it's like 12 minutes. Because
Yeah.
it drives like 70, 80 miles an hour. And so I'm like, if we just had AI and everybody was just flowing, like it would be 20 minutes or 15 minutes, but it's 2 hours. It's 2 hours and 40 minutes, depending on how many people do dipshit,
Yeah,
dumb
no,
stuff.
I've heard that in these roads, right? You theoretically the cars would be a lot closer to each other as well because they're all talking to each other. And so you're high speed and you're closer in proximity, and there's no stopping because they all know when they're gonna move and where they gotta be. So
Right. Do you need
it's in,
stoplights then? Like, no, you just like it's roundabouts and
but then I get into my Tesla with full self-driving and it almost crashes into a pole. So like we're at least 20, 30 years out.
yeah.
At least.
Yeah, I want that though. I was like, oh man, like that 3 hour ride, you could just sleep and you'd be safe. That would be nice.
It's I think technology and just to kind of pull this back into Atlassian, right? And I was trying this today where Atlassian intelligence, right? Like even like I got access to a Jira site with Robo, and I was like, I don't even know where to start with Robo. So I just went to the search and I just typed in an example that it told me to type in, and it came back with nothing. So I was like, well, we're still some way out.
Yeah, I think like even building them, right? Like I got my little ITSM pirate that I have that I built for Rovo, and it talks to me with R's and
Ours.
R's. And then sometimes it doesn't give me the R's and R's. And I'm like, well, you're supposed to talk to me that. Like I told you to talk to me that way. And it doesn't. So I think you're right. We're a ways from a lot of things, and it's every day evolving and changing. And we're evolving and changing with it, like our habits, our way of working, our technical levels. Like we're all going to have to morph with this, just like when internet came out in the 90s, right? We all had to like learn something new with the dial up, and now we're having to learn something new with the AI. And people are so worried about their jobs. I'm like, no, like nobody lost jobs back in that time. Like the automated jobs from the internet days, like and the robots that came onto the production floors, there was use cases where people are still there and they will still be there.
Yeah. You know,
And
it's interesting you bring that up because I saw a quote that said AI is not going to replace your job, at least with the context of software engineering, but a software engineer that uses AI will replace you.
right, exactly. If you don't mold to it, you're obsolete, right? So you're going to find a job where you can do a human job that's not AI incapable,
Yeah. But I mean, AI has just been so powerful. I'm genuinely very excited for what Atlassian is going to do in this productivity space because humans are a company's biggest downfall, right? Like the reason why a product can't be delivered on time and on budget and within scope is because humans.
Yeah, let's talk about that because I really like, here's my thing, like, why do we spend and get project managers and POs doing these big roadmaps for 3 years? Like, why? Like, why do we spend time on that?
Yeah, we just need to be
When
able to go a week out.
when it's already like, as soon as you go and show everybody, like, that is obsolete because it's all changed within 30 minutes, right? After you deliver it, it's done. Maybe
Yeah.
even 30 seconds, I don't know. But like, why don't we live in the now? It's like anxiety, right? Like, coming from a person who's grew up with anxiety and OCD, like I can't live in the future and I can't live in the past. I have to live in the now. And what if we started doing that as business people, right? We lived in the now and we didn't live tomorrow. Like, let's just get through the day. And what did we get done today? What did we deliver today?
But I think we will, but I think it's got to be not organizational, not cultural, but I don't even know the word. I think too many people that are running companies expect to run the business the way they ran it before, right? Because like I work with a lot of clients, and one of my clients, it's like I created this Jira masterpiece for them, and then like I try to present it to them and using like Confluence whiteboards to show them everything I did. And she's like, I'm not following. So I took everything and I screenshotted and put it in PowerPoint. Brilliant work, Alex.
Yeah, yeah.
All I did was take screenshots on my whiteboard and put it in a PowerPoint format. And they're like the best work they've ever seen. But I try to show them the live data in Confluence and they're like, what is this?
Yeah, no, you definitely, I think, like a people's perspective change and a human change. Humans are hard to change. Change management's like the hardest thing ever, right? Like, being in ITSM for so many years and coming to change management, I found myself, even like when we're having to come into these engagements, I'm getting change fatigue from just talking about it.
Yeah,
You know
but
what I'm saying?
but now imagine the world where, because again, humans, I'm thinking, what happens when you don't need the employees that are negative Nancy's, right? What happens when what happens when you build a team or a company that is like AI first, and every employee is highly encouraged to use AI, but to benefit the greater good, and so the decisions that you can drive, the discoveries that you can make, the research you can do, right? Because who was it, Satya? Somebody, I think Microsoft CEO was saying like his favorite part about where AI is going is like instead of having to hire like a McKinsey or Deloitte to do 100,000, 200, $300,000 worth of research and analytics on a potential business decision or entering a new market, you just build an agent that plays the role of a McKinsey person and does it for you in minutes.
I think that that's the idea, right? Like, we can reduce overhead, we can get people aligned, and the ones that aren't aligned, they get left behind. And that's the idea. I think that's the idea, is that's how we become more efficient. And I think
And I
that's,
think that's where the fear of I'm going to lose my job is like, well, no, you're not going to lose your job, but if you're lazy, heck yeah, you're going to lose your job.
well, not just that, like, so here's the thing, like, I use Rovo since EAP, and I gotta say, like, the first like 3 months of using Rovo, I spent more time on Rovo than doing other things to try and adjust and learn. And yes, there's going to be this like learning point with AI and all that stuff. But like, now I'm getting like 2 to 6 hours back a week, depending what I'm working on. Depending, right? Like, if it can help with doing that.
Yeah.
And so, as we be getting AI and Rovo introduced to more things, we get more time back. And and it's lovely. Like I can write a Confluence page for a client on best practices and what we should be doing based on other information that's in Loom or in Confluence, and I just saved myself 4 hours of work or 3 hours.
So let's pivot that then to the topic I had at the beginning, which was that Atlassian Council of Admins, right? Because theoretically, we could now collectively create a Confluence page where you, me, and all the Jira admins of the world get together to put their best thoughts and best everything, and then AI can be based off of that, or an agent can be based off of that. And now every company's got the best Jira admin at their company.
That would be lovely.
But now what happens to us? Like these, like I envision a future like as much as I love AI, you still got to figure out how you're going to feed your kids.
Yeah. Well, let's not talk about that because who has the most?
So I know I got two, and my kids would be happy with just beans and rice. So.
Yeah. Well, mine just need jasmine rice and some meat. That's it. That's all they want to eat every day.
Oh, you should get a farm, raise some cows,
Yeah.
some chickens.
Yeah.
You know, so I've thought about that too. So what do you think then? Like, do you think we'll enter an era where the like technology fatigue and people literally just go and like buy ranches and farms and just disconnect?
I think that we're going to be there within a few years where technology is like the basis of work, where work happens, but everybody's going to be living in a very natural place, right? Like as we stop having to go to the 9 to 5 job at some building, we are working from home, we're doing more at home work. Robots are replacing the manufacturing tables, right?
Yeah.
Those don't have to do that. There's no kids making shoes anymore, right? Like a robot's making that shoe. And we're coming back and we're becoming like mechanics for the robots, IT people for the way things are built in that atmosphere. We're going to have to live with nature now. We're going to go back to nature more, and we're going to like live this like duality life between like being outside more, having more time off and not working because everything's working for us, like, and we're doing these different jobs, and that's what
Yeah,
like
then you're just talking into the air and things happen.
right.
Harvest.
Yeah. So for our sanity and for our health, like we're like coming from indigenous background, like nature is a need for us. The sun is a need for us. Like there's things that we need. So we're gonna have more time socializing and being out in nature, I think. And
You know, and that's one of the things I really liked about Team this year is that there was a lot more outdoor component to it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you, but I saw the sun a lot more than I did historically at other team conferences.
Well, yeah, because we weren't like in a building that took 20 minutes to walk through. We had to walk outside to like get air and be outside.
Yeah.
The other building. So that was nice.
So that was nice. But then the other thing that I wanted to mention is I was in Austin last November and I worked 12, 14-hour days every day. And like that 5 days that I was on my cousin's ranch was like the most peaceful 5 days of my life.
Yeah. I mean, when I'm getting ready to leave for ceremonies this weekend, and we're going to be probably outside, hopefully, if the weather's good. And it's going to be like 3 beautiful days of just being out in Mother Nature and with my people and doing like that kind of thing. And I think that's what like rejuvenates like our family is like doing those things, going for nature walks, like, and so just like working from home and being home all the time with the kids is daunting. And so you can't be a Jira admin without being outside, right? You have to get outside. You have to be in nature. Like I see so many other admins and Atlassian ecosystem people show us like in the community, like, oh guys, I was out like kayaking or I was in the mountains.
And Mike Day like lives on the side of Machu Picchu.
Right? Yeah. So I think that's amazing. Like I think, and we need to do that. Like as humans, like we need to have a farm outside your backyard. We need a garden. We need those things. And I think technology can give that back to us where we're not.
Yeah, and then but then also technology can help us be more efficient because of the amount of like wasted food and shortages and stuff, and like technology can play a very significant role. But the interesting thing to me is like going back to the whole shoemaking thing, right? Like the same thing with chocolate bars, right? Like I don't know how much you follow MrBeast with Feastables and stuff,
Mhm.
but he was running into this problem where he's like he wants a sustainable chocolate that is not bad for society. But because right now chocolate like Hershey's and all those companies, Mars, all their labor is child labor, right? For the cocoa farms to get the bean to
Mm-hmm.
make the chocolate. But Mr. Beast trying to change it. So Mr. Beast went and was like, he's like, okay, let's just, I don't want any kids, right? Like, that's not, I don't want a single kid working on these fields. And then the guy's like, that runs the farm, he's like, well, if the kids aren't working, then what do you want the kids to do? He's like, well, school. And they're like, well, there's no school. So now Mr. Beast, the YouTuber, is building schools for these kids so they have somewhere to go when they're not being, taken advantage of working. And so
Right.
the point I'm trying to make with all this is like, nobody is solving these like bigger problems. Like, why is a YouTuber going to build schools for
Yeah.
kids?
And
Like,
like as we get time back because of Rovo and Atlassian, maybe we can help solve those things. Like realistically, like I know like our indigenous communities in America, Canada, a lot of them are third world right here in America, right? And some of them are not. And each people is so different, but like what if we could have that time to go back and give back, and we could like work on these foundations, and we could work on these infrastructure things that need, for this, I guess, disparate communities, right? Like how can we make it better and give
yeah.
back? And technology can give us that time.
But now
And
you still now got to think about, because I'm not a socialist in any way, shape, or form. But now you got to figure out, like, so how do we make money then? Like, because what incentivizes creation? What incentivizes,
but do we need
purpose?
to? Do we need to? Like, can society become a more holistic society where we're working together and money is
I,
not?
I think as long as you have humans in the loop, no,
Yeah.
because humans are corrupt.
Aliens. We need aliens.
No. I think there's too much corruption. Like, this is why I also don't like. I'm not a big fan of like nonprofits and stuff, because as long as there's a human in the loop, like, you hear about all these stories of just like corruption and right.
Yes.
Like, unless I see things in my own eyes, it's like a trust but verified type of thing.
Right.
I,
Yeah.
I
There's
I
always
don't know how much I can trust humans, which is
there's
an interesting thing of like, well, then AI is a good replacement for a human.
well, like what is most healthiest and good for people, I guess, and we have to have human best interest, and who has that? Maybe the AI will have that. I don't know.
I don't know. Like, I think humans, right? We're designed to be in a community, which is why this Atlassian community is so cool, right?
Mhm.
So maybe I don't know, because have you ever heard of the guy that I'm blanking on his name? He is Shamath. I cannot pronounce his last name. But he used to be an early Facebook employee, like was head of growth at Facebook. He's like a billionaire now. Have you ever heard of him by any chance? No,
No.
huge
So
Silicon Valley guy. His belief is that energy is going to be free, right? There will be a time where we don't pay for electricity or any form of energy because everything's going to be powered
should be.
by the sun, right? So what do you do when you don't need energy anymore, right? Because right now the energy, like if you look at the Fortune 500 companies and just S&P, right? It used to be Exxon, Mobil, all those companies that were heavy, but what's going to happen when that goes away? Like when you don't need a dependency on on non-renewable energy, right? And like energy becomes a commodity or everything's free because the sun powers everything. Well, then you've eliminated an entire sector. Then what? Like, well, then what can you achieve?
Well,
When
I
that your electricity
think
is free.
that's like what AI can help us do as humans. Like, can we stop being greedy? Can we stop worrying about my pocketbook and my own growth, and talk about human growth? And like, here's some things that I think. Like, everybody should have a house. Like, everybody should have a place to live and call home. Everybody should have warmth and comfort and food, right? Like, we should all have that.
Yeah,
You look at
basic needs. It's
yeah,
in our constitution.
right. And if you look at a long time ago, like before, like in the indigenous communities, before like settlement and before all of those things, like we had that. Like everybody was fed. Like my neighbor didn't eat, like we would feed them, right? And we still carry those values today. So I think
But that's why it's going to be so community driven, right? Because like if you expect this to be as a broad society, I think there's too much corruption. I think too many people are going to want the upper leg.
so. You're saying like we need smaller communities and smaller area, and where people, yeah, I
Yeah,
think
maybe your cities become neighborhoods.
Right. I think so. I think that maybe they become states, right? Who knows? Like maybe they become like
Yeah, I mean, I think we're gonna have to figure something out, right? Because it's just not gonna be possible for like an entire state to have like California. Like if you come to California, right, everything's free. In California, it is better for me to be poor than it is for me to be rich.
right.
Because if you're poor here, the government pays for your housing, they pay for your healthcare, and they pay for your food, which is those basic necessities you were talking about. But if
Mhm.
I'm rich, I'm taxed twice as much to pay to make up for all the people, the millions of people that are receiving all these benefits. So
Mhm.
what incentive do I have to outperform? Because if I underperform, then I'm rewarded by the system.
Yeah. I
And
think
so again, but
there has to
now
be
if AI makes everything relative zero, right? Everything's baselined, then what do you wake up for in the morning?
for nature
For
and
yeah, but
socialization.
that's I mean, my kid grew up with an iPad. Like, how my kid could care less about nature?
My kids too. Like I try to get them out. They do great. They thrive outside, but during the week they're like, "Can I have my tablet? Can I have phone?"
Dude, last night, because I know we gotta go. But last night, my kids were playing. Like, they were playing board games. They were playing card games. They spent like 2 hours playing games, and I just got back from a business trip. So I'm like, what the heck did my wife do overnight that
So we're
puts
trying
her
to do
like?
the same thing. We're doing the same thing. We got like Connect Four and like some card games, and we're gonna start doing more of
I
that.
haven't told you the best part though. The reason that they were doing this is because their room accidentally got locked down. The computers were inside, so they had to figure out what to do because the computers were locked.
That's
And
good. Like just do that. Just lock them out.
right,
That's it.
but it's gonna be an interesting future that we got to create here. Lots to think about. Maybe once we're not busy thinking about that 9 to 5, we'll have the opportunity to solve these problems.
And let's hope AI brings that to us.
Yeah. So, anyways, Aaron, thank you so much for being here with me. I appreciate you taking
Yeah.
some time here to chat with me. Future looks bright, scary, but bright, but opportunistic, if that's a word.
Yes, I think so.
All right. See you. Are you going to Barcelona?
I'm hoping so, but I don't
All
know.
right.
We'll
I'll
see.
see you in October. Or I'll see you in April or May.
Right.
So we'll
Sure.
see.
All
All
right.
right. Thanks, Aaron.
See you.